All right, take two. Welcome to the City Council meeting for March 3rd, 2015. We are going to have I think the first thing we'll do is a Pledge of Allegiance. Brian Wilson, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, we're privileged to have representatives from the Washington State Department of Transportation here for an update on I-5, SR 161, SR 18 Triangle Improvement Projects. So we've got three parts of this presentation: a staff presentation, then any citizen comment, and then council discussion and questions. After that, we will retire to the back for an executive session. So with that, we've got our senior traffic engineer here, Rick Perez. Rick?
Good evening. Yes, we are fortunate to have WSDOT representatives to give us an update on the Triangle project. It was exciting when we got the first phase done. It's been 3 years now. But there's more work to be done there, and so Hung Nguyen and Kathy George are here to give us an update on that and discuss some of the different options that are under consideration. And in particular, I'd like to have feedback from the mayor and council on some of these concepts that we're going to discuss, so that we can help move the project forward in a way that is mutually beneficial to the state and the city. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Okay, how do we move forward? Just click?
Yeah, you can click or you can hit a space bar.
Okay. Sorry, not used to doing these. My name's Kathy George. I'm the Design Engineering Manager for Washington State Department of Transportation for both King and Snohomish counties. And we're here to give you an update, some history on the Triangle project as we affectionately know it. That covers the area between I-5, Highway 18, and Highway 161. Then Hung, I'll give you a history. Hung will give you an overview of the current project that we're working on, some challenges that we're facing and next steps, and then we're available for questions and answers. So history, before 2010, when the project that just finished up was built, we basically had at Highway 18 and I-5, let's see, okay, Hung, it's not working. This one? No? Okay, there we go. So we had a cloverleaf, and hold that too? Okay. You know where it is. With the circles, it's a cloverleaf interchange. It's something very prevalent in the 1960s and 1970s, old style interchange. When highways get congested, like you've got in Federal Way with Highway 18, I-5, and then everybody wanting to head to Highway 161 at the top of the screen, things stop working because you have a very short area for traffic to weave, or basically in this case, traffic coming on I-5, getting off I-5, same on SR 18 where they're getting off, and at the same time you've got traffic going westbound trying to get onto southbound I-5. So the first phase of the project, did I miss one, Hung? First phase of the project constructed what we felt were the first steps to taking care of that congestion. So that was a flyover ramp from, I don't even need the pointer. A flyover ramp from westbound SR 18 to southbound I-5, and then from eastbound SR 18 to northbound I-5. So you pull that traffic out of the mix, and suddenly you don't have a lot of the weaves that are going on in the interchange. Goal was to reduce congestion and at the same time reduce accidents. So we finished that project 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And completed 2012. There we go. And so the next phase that we are looking at is addressing traffic getting over to, oh, let's see, I forgot one more project we did. We built a new ramp from southbound I-5 over to 161. Actually, no, it's southbound. SR-18, sorry. So the next piece, we start addressing traffic from I-5 going south and getting them over to 161, pulling them out of this mess in between I-5 and SR-18, and the significant left turn you have, cars trying to get southbound on 161. So a little bit of history. We received funding out of there were two funding packages back in the early to mid 2000. One was the nickel package. Part of the funding for that project came from nickel, and then 2 years later, the legislature followed up and provided the rest of the money to fund the projects that are shown in black. Also, a little bit of federal funding also. And 2013, that project opened. 2013, a little bit earlier than that project opened, we received more money from the state legislature to phase fund, or the phase 2, and that's what Hung is going to talk to you about. Great.
So where do we go from here with phase 2? So you can see this is where we are today with the project, with the ramps already completed. What phase 2, when we started phase 2, the vision is that we want to make sure we get traffic going southbound on I-5 to be able to get to Highway 161 one way or another. So we're building this ramp to connect to that existing ramp that's already go to 161. And at the same time, we are building a new ramp to 356. This would get traffic off of that 348, traffic that wants to go east and west, so they can use 356. In doing that, we will have to build a bridge in this facility to make that connection from mainline I-5 to that ramp. And because of that bridge, we have to modify this loop ramp here. This is that's the existing loop ramp, and we have to move it so that we can make room for this new off ramp at these locations. To do that, we have to build a new bridge over Highway 18 to make that connections. And at the same time, we want to lengthen the lanes here to improve storage at this ramp, because as you know, at this ramp here, the traffic backs up quite a way during peak hour. So with this new ramp coming to 356, we find out that well, at least initially we plan to realign 16th, because as you know, at that location there, the two intersections are really close together. So if we look at it, if you're not familiar with the area, oops, sorry. So this is where the new ramp would come off, feeding into these intersections. And you can see this two intersection is only 50 feet apart. It's difficult to make it work today already, to try to put the ramp traffic in there to make it all work efficiently and safely. It's very difficult. So that's the challenge that we have to face, and that's why initially we think we would probably have to realign 16th over here, to separate those two intersections a little bit to make it work. But fortunately, as we look into this projects and get the cost updated, we're getting closer to $60 million to do all this work. And if we look into this in a little more details, you might not be able to read this, but you can see here about 25% of the cost is the right-of-way cost, the cost to purchase the land for the projects, and then about 20% of the cost is what we call bridge cost. And the right-of-way cost, most of the right-of-way cost is over here. to resolve this issue with the two intersections being so close together. And the bridge cost is right here, because we have a new bridge over SR-18 and a long bridge to connect the ramps. So, trying to look at how we can move this project along and trying to save money, we conducted a value engineering practical design workshop back in December. Rick participated in that, and we come up with a lot of good ideas. The workshop made a lot of recommendations. A lot of those recommendations we're going to implement. It's not going to be noticeable to the general publics. But there are three that I want to point out to you because it's quite noticeable. So the first one I want to talk about is what we call recommendation number 4. The recommendation is to eliminate this loop ramp that's out there today. Just get rid of it. That way we don't have to build a bridge over SR-18. Or the traffic that wants to go eastbound Highway 18 from southbound I-5 would have to get off of this ramp and then make a left turn.
No.
We'll discuss that in a little more detail later. Right now I'm just going to go through the recommendation first. The next recommendation we received was instead of realigning 16th Avenue here, build a roundabout to connect all this road together and make it work. And then the third and the last recommendation I want to talk to you about is this here, what we call moving the ramp terminal, because recall we're building a new ramp to 356. There's a federal there's a requirement that because this is part of the interstate system, wherever the ramp ends, there's what we call limited access. So within 300 feet of where the ramp ends, we want to control driveway. We don't want any driveways coming in now within 300 feet of the ramp. Just it's for safety reason, because you get off the ramp, you don't want to have to look out for a car coming in and out of driveways. But there's also a requirement that the ramp ends at the local street systems, because it couldn't just end halfway somewhere and terminate that. So we'll discuss this a little more in detail. But let's look at recommendation number 4 first. So remember, so if we eliminate this loop ramp, this is what the project originally proposed. As you can see, we have to build this bridge over, so to connect to this loop ramp. If we eliminate this loop ramp, we don't have to build this bridge. So that would save some money. So it would look something like this. So we would have the existing ramp would have to be widened. There had to be like 3 left turn lane coming down here, to make sure that, to make the operations work. So some of the pros and cons with this thing is that, as we discussed, is that it will eliminate the need to build that bridge, so that saves some money. And when building bridge, we have to build foundations underground. And when you go underground, who knows what's down there? We do explorations, but we can always do spot exploration. When we start building, we don't know what's down there. So that's a risk that we have. We can eliminate if we don't have to build a bridge. So by doing all that, we reduce the construction cost for the project. It will eliminate the merge on eastbound 18, because currently, when you go eastbound 18 with the loop ramp coming down, with the loop ramp traffic coming down here, so the eastbound traffic we have to merge with that loop ramp traffic somehow, all right? So we eliminate that.
Can I interrupt just for a moment?
Sure.
I'm not understanding why the exit, why.
Mike?
I'm not understanding why there's a need for a bridge if you are, that structure is already there to go southbound from I-5 and then eastbound on 18. That structure is already there, is it not?
Yes, but what happened is, because we have to build this new exit to connect to that ramp to 161, we need more space here, and there's not enough space between the existing ramp and mainland I-5 to do that. So we have to actually move the end of this, actually the beginning of this ramp further to the west to make room for that new ramp.
Yeah, can I, and where's that ramp go again,
This ramp?
that southbound ramp to 161? Can you show me that full picture right there?
Yeah, so this southbound ramp goes to 161 right here. There's an existing signal there now. That's where the ramp from SR18 goes today.
Mm-hmm.
And then that ramp will also allow us to go to 356 here.
If I might, the issue here is this ramp here, the traffic's going to be going about 45 or 50, which creates a conflict for the loop ramp traffic that's going to have to slow down to about 20. And so there's standards about how much deceleration length you need when you're coming off the freeway lane. So in order to accommodate both of them, they have to be separated. So yeah, this was a point the VE team discussed quite a bit.
Well, my quick question is there consideration for the queue that will build for individuals wanting to go eastbound on 18? Is that going to back up onto the freeway?
That's why it's 3 lanes.
Yeah, that's what's 3 lanes.
Is that enough inventory?
Can I, do you mind, because
Oh,
I
please.
was, the exact same question, there's, in my opinion, there is already a backup, I think there's already a need for an additional lane if you're exiting I-5 southbound on, going eastbound on what would be 348th. There's already a need for an additional lane, I think, and there's already backup on the highway.
Right.
If we add this and add another lane, we're not going to be solving the problem for the backup on the highway. You're just going to be adding more.
And then, do you have something to add to that
To-
before
to-
he answers? Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Councilmember Salzgeber.
So I actually like this solution, and I'll tell you why. Because right now on southbound I-5 at Highway 512, there's a similar type
Exactly.
arrangement. And I've been through there many times, and that works just fine. And I'm sure there's as much traffic going on eastbound 512 as there on eastbound Highway 18. So I think this is very logical.
Yeah, it is a very similar situation there, and actually I think probably the volumes at 512 that on that loop ramp that got replaced is probably higher than what we have here.
It's going to
Councilmember Maloney?
Well, I apologize. I don't mean to be disagreeable, but there is enormous backup during evening rush hour right now. And if you add the vehicles that want to go, sorry, I had it wrong before, want to go eastbound now. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is there's going to be all of that additional traffic. And then on top of that, a lot of the larger trucks use this as a thoroughfare. They go through Federal Way or whatever, and that's going to be an additional amount going through that light of the 18-wheelers as well. So, I mean, there was a point when I was standing out on a corner, which sounds really bad, for a reason though, waving signs.
Campaigning.
And yes, thank you, Jim. And we counted the 18-wheelers that were going by, and there is a significant number. I've heard recently that they're increasing. And so if we're having to shove all of the vehicles, the regular individuals' cars, and the 18-wheelers into this one point here where it's just, to me, it seems like it's way too much.
Right.
So I think I've made my point. Thank you.
Right, so the reason there's 3 left turn lanes is so that it doesn't take any more green time away from 18 than it's already getting.
I do.
And this isn't really the capacity constraint. It's 340, Enchanted and 16th is the capacity constraint. The traffic backs up through this intersection. And so this isn't really causing the backups right here.
So I just want to clarify,
Okay.
so, we haven't,
I don't
we're still in the process of vetting out these recommendations. No, we haven't finished our process yet. We may turn out we found something that doesn't work and we're going to drop it. But up to now, it seems like it's possible. something that we might be able to implement. So back to your point about the car backing up at the ramp today, I think that's back up because of a number of reasons. One is as Rick mentioned, is the loop ramp require the traffic to slow down to 25 miles to take that. So that will back up. And the other thing is that the existing ramp here, this ramp here is not, it doesn't have the capacity to store or the queue in the ramp, so it backs up too, and so the two back up just actually work against each other. So with this project, we are widening this ramp to store more car down here, so that would help with that.
It would.
Yes.
I'm curious about the individuals that want to make that maneuver, which is southbound from I-5 to eastbound 18. Do the counts support the inventory that you have with that added lane?
So we have done a preliminary traffic analysis, and it shows that with this configuration, we can make it work. Yeah, based on the count, the data that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Selsky.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, again, you just look at this, and it's very similar to that 512 interchange. I'm sure everybody has seen that. I've seen a lot of traffic move through there with both passenger vehicles and with, with freight haulers as well. And it works well. The way they have the lights phased is such that that whole queue will clear out and make it easily accessible for the traffic. And so I personally like this solution. I really do.
Okay.
Was the original idea a flyover?
No.
Well, way back in the early part of the Triangle project, there was a flyover, and that got dropped for the ultimate design configuration that you saw in the presentation a little bit earlier. That one flyover was somewhere in the vicinity of like 50 million. So, and I guess I should, how much was this, eliminating this loop ramp was saving about, what, 10 million was it?
Yeah, somewhere around 7 million.
So that's the compelling aspect of it, is you've got, some cost savings on a project that costs continue to escalate. So trying to contain that.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. I'm all for saving costs and making this a project that can be done, but how does this fit into the future and the expectations of more vehicles in the future?
So,
Go ahead.
so that's one of the nice things that I was going to get to is that by not building the loop ramp today, that doesn't mean we couldn't build the loop ramp in the future if we need to. Right? So all the flexibility are still there if we have to make that investment in the future. We just you can look at us like a deferred investment and see if we're actually going to need it or not.
Councilmember Duclos.
Following up on Councilmember Honda, and if we're not, I guess to me it makes more sense to do a project now the right way so that we don't have to do anything in the future, because costs should be less expensive now than in the future. So maybe we ought to take some more time and look at this thing a little bit more.
Well, that's what we're doing.
This is all part of that analysis.
That's right.
And, we started off talking about value engineering, and I still tend to use that terminology, but this was also what the DOT is calling practical design, which is trying to solve the immediate problem because there's an implicit acknowledgement that you're never going to be able to solve everything.
I understand that, but
And I understand exactly what you're saying too. I struggle a lot with the issue myself personally. It's like when is enough? And but yeah, if you want to solve a problem, you want to solve the problem and not have to come back in 5 years to fix it, because you
when it
did
costs
something.
twice as much.
Right. So point taken.
Thank you.
All right, please proceed. I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
No,
Do you mind if I
please,
ask
please.
one
Oh,
more?
yeah,
Just, and
Go ahead.
I think Lydia has a
I'm
question too. And thank you for letting us just interject in the middle of your presentation. And I know that you guys don't work in a vacuum, so I'm positive this has come up, but I'm wondering what the plans are, or how this interacts with Sound Transit if they do an I-5 alignment. Have you considered, I'm sure you've considered all that.
So, Sound Transit has done very, very preliminary corridor analysis from, downtown Federal Way to Tacoma. They've described it so generally that we can't really tell where that alignment's gonna go. If it comes down 99, it's probably gonna stay on 99 or maybe cut over to along 16th and Enchanted to I-5. If it comes down I-5, it'll probably be on the west side of I-5. But again, it's unless Kathy, you have more
No,
information.
I was just gonna say that, this is a project that's out there, we already know about, they're working around us.
Yeah.
So, we're running into this out on Highway 520 with the east lane of making sure that they're not, affecting our ability in the future to address problems.
Thank you. I can appreciate that. I guess my concern when it's put that way is that if they're working around whatever we end up doing, and there's not collaboration, then we might be forced to have an alignment that we may not necessarily want, because they're trying to avoid, or they can't maybe align down a certain path that might be a preference or something. So.
It's just too preliminary on their side
Yeah.
to know what the impacts would be.
Okay.
Well, but
What-
actually, Councilmember Asafa Dawson?
Yeah, my question is, I do take the ramp on Highway 18 eastbound to go to work every morning, and I like it, but it's new, and so I don't know how much the cost was for that, but also tearing it down is also going to cost, right? So when you put all that into this conversation, what is the cost saving?
Right, so, no, the new flyover ramp would not be affected by this. Okay, so all we're talking about is eliminating this loop ramp that you use from
To go
southbound
east.
I-5 to eastbound 18. And yeah, the net cost reduction is $7 million. So that includes the cost of ripping out this existing loop ramp.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's brand new. I mean, fairly new.
No, we're not talking about the brand new ramp. This is not brand new.
So the brand new ramp that you're talking about is this one here, and that's not gonna be affected by this project.
Okay.
So now that, actually, the Sound Transit question actually has me intrigued, because just in regard to, our council has a very strong, well, we've expressed, I think, collectively, but not formally and officially yet. Unofficially, we've had a very strong preference for an I-5 alignment for a number of reasons. And obviously, I think the idea of the spine is to run it all the way down to Tacoma. My question here is, would there, if that's the case, if that's where alignment is, because we've made it very clear, and I believe Des Moines has made it very clear, SeaTac, if there's an I-5 alignment, where would that go in this?
Okay, in that corridor study, they talked about having a station somewhere in the vicinity of 352nd between 99 and Enchanted Parkway. So even if we had an I-5 alignment coming down this way, somewhere in the vicinity of 344th, backside of Walmart, it's going to start veering towards the west anyway. So I even though it's all very preliminary and very conceptual, I personally don't see this as being an obstacle to them. I could be wrong, but based on what information had been shared in that corridor analysis, I don't think this interchange is going to be a constraint.
All right. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. So what is the timeline for this project? as compared to the Sound Transit project, because considering that this money comes from all of us, and I would hate to waste money on any kind of a project. I realize that this needs to be done as soon as we can get it done because it's backed up right now. I just got a text from someone saying traffic's backed up right now at this point in time. But I really think that we all need to work together to make traffic congestion better in this area.
Yeah.
So what is the timeline for this project then?
Okay.
So this project, we only currently have funding to complete 30% design. We don't have any money to go past that. No money to finish the design. No money to acquire the right of way. No money to build the project.
So
We
there's a
don't know when we'll
bill,
get that.
there's a bill, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the project is in the Senate bill,
Yeah.
but was it 19, no, was it
It's like
21?
21, 23 or something.
21, 23 biennium, so that would probably mean no construction until sometime in late, or early 2022 or late 2021.
Well, but there's a bill in the legislature right now in which we are seeking $85 million.
Right. That's
So
right.
that's for, that's for the triangle.
Yes.
The aging we've seen, so all the money that they're collecting goes to 5 pages worth of projects, and with the aging we've seen at this point, the aging for this project is a ways out. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be a change from the House, but what's in the current aging has this one quite a ways out in the budget.
Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. I want to thank you for your presentation this evening and for responding to all the pertinent questions. I know this is so much a part of our daily life, really, that we have a lot of concerns. But in addition to the timing that Councilmember Honda mentioned and asked about, and the complication of not knowing for sure where this project would fit on any implementation list of projects, I'm wondering when you would be planning to come back to us with an update. You know, you're talking about 30% right now. What would you anticipate in terms of any interim reports?
So can I put that off until the end?
Okay.
So we can talk about that at the end.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Please proceed.
Okay. So if we implement these recommendations, the only drawback that we've seen so far is that it will add some delay to traffic going eastbound on Highway 18, because there's, currently if you go eastbound, there's nothing, there's no signal there, just zip right through. With the signal there, you might have to stop for a red light once in a while. So the next recommendation that I want to talk about is recommendation number 5, where instead of realigning 16th Avenue to move the intersection away from 161, we build a roundabout instead. Well, let me back up a little. So, as you can see, if we realign 16th, we would have to acquire right-of-ways, to make that work. So that and versus as if we build a roundabout, we can reduce that cost quite a bit. So this is, a guesstimate for us now. So this is what the roundabout may look like. It may change when we're done evaluating it. So, the new ramp would come in here and, go through all this stuff, and, we have 356, 60. So one of the things is that depending on how big this roundabout has to be, as you know, there's a lot of traffic going through our intersections. We're moving closer and closer to this apartment building down here. Even if we don't have to impact it, we're going to have to impact a lot of things around it, and the construction is going to be very disruptive to those folks. And then one thing I want to point out, all this red line that I show on here, these delineate the limited access, what we call limited access. So per the standard, we need to eliminate all driveway within this area. So we have to buy up all the rights for a driveway. So you can see, potentially it could impact a lot of businesses around here. The Chevron's driveway and these the two business driveways will have to be impacted. We're looking into ways to see if we can reduce that requirement, but there's no guarantee. Yeah, it will signal too, either way. So some of the pros and cons that we see so far is that with the roundabout, it makes it easier for people to make left turn and U-turn and all those things. So in a way, it's helped with access on there. Makes the intersection works a lot better during peak period. You don't have to wait for those lights. The speed in the roundabout is a lot slower, so that helped to reduce any accident that we may have. And then with roundabout, there's typically less conflict point at intersections, so there's less chance of accident. And generally with roundabout, there's less maintenance. You don't have to maintain the light bulbs and the signal pole and all those things. And of course, there's less right of way we have to buy compared to the realigning 16th. But as I mentioned earlier, with the volumes that's going through these intersections, we either might have to have like a three-lane roundabout, or we may have to meter the entrance into the roundabout, similar to the ramp metering. Because if we don't do that, the north-south traffic on 161 is very heavy, so they're going to dominate the movement in the roundabout. So it's going to make it difficult for the side street to enter the roundabout. So we may have to do that. During construction, there's going to be more impact to traffic, because building if you don't, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, because it's kind of it's tilted from high, from I-5 is higher, as we go west it's lower. So we have to somehow level that ground for the roundabout to work. We don't, the roundabout doesn't work on a tilted ground, so that takes a lot of work to bring it up. And by doing that, we have to build walls and everything, so it takes a lot of work. So because of that, the construction cost will be a little more expensive compared to realigning 16.
Can I ask a question?
Councilmember Honda?
I have a question about the apartments.
Sure.
It seems that it would be very disruptive if this occurs to live in these apartments. Is there something that this state would do to lessen the sound of the traffic? Are there sound barriers you could put up?
So so I'm assuming you refer to during constructions?
No, after construction is
After
over.
construction.
Because there's a lot of traffic, increased traffic then that would flow through this area, which is what it's being designed for.
Mm-hmm.
So, which would make living in this area not very pleasant.
So as part of the design process, we are required to go through and evaluate those kind of impacts in the environmental documentation phase. So we haven't got that far yet, but as we go into that, we will look and see how much impacts we have and whether it meet the threshold for mitigations, and then we will act appropriately. But maybe as you can see, we could do as much as putting noise wall, but I don't know if that's going to be required here.
I'd like to follow up on that, because that was my question too. Mitigation can mean many things. And so there'd have to be some kind of assurance that the people that would live in those apartments would not be listening to traffic noise all day long and all night long. And traffic noise can be very, very disturbing. And plus it diminishes the property of the owner, so.
Yes.
That it really concerns me. I worry about that.
And it's a concern to us too. That's why I pointed out, and I said it's something that we have to evaluate as we move forward.
No, I know that. I just want you to put it in the record that a couple of people have raised that issue.
Okay. So and then as I mentioned earlier, it's really not going to reduce the number of driveways that need to be closed compared to realigning the 16th Avenue, and then let's put it here, move traffic closer to the apartment building. So the last recommendation that I want to talk about is this recommendation to move the ramp terminal away from 161. One advantage of this is as I mentioned earlier, is that it reduces the requirement for eliminating driveways around the ramp terminal. So as you can see in this display here, if we move the ramp terminal to this point, we only have to worry about driveway up to this point. So we wouldn't be affecting the gas station. We wouldn't be affecting these businesses as far as closing their driveways. But there's a lot of hoops we have to jump through before we can make this work. We have to get buy-off from the feds and everybody else, making sure that it meets all the requirements that we have to have. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the requirements has to be connected to a local street systems. So I mean, here we're just showing a stub out, but I don't know if that's something that can pass the test of a local street system yet. So some of the advantage that we see with this is that, of course, this reduces the right-of-way cost. It allows most of the existing business to remain. There's a trucking business in here. That trucking business is going to be impacted by the project. Either way, whether we move the ramp terminal or not, because of the ground in there, it's just once we build the road, we just can't keep the driveway at the grade where they can get in and out of the business. And this would allow us to improve access to this land area back here that's currently owned by DOT. That's going to be accessed probably once the project is done for redevelopment. The disadvantages is that it will add some cost to the project because we're building another intersections. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we may not be able to satisfy the requirement to have ramp terminate at a local street system. So with all that said, to get back to the question earlier, so we are going through the process to evaluate all these recommendations, see if any of them make sense. Hopefully we'll get it done by next month sometime, April. And then after that, after we decide which one is engineering feasible, then we have to go out and get endorsement from stakeholder and approving authorities, like yourself. Once we get all that done, then we can go and update the environmental documentation. We can go and see, what impact does it have to the environment, to the apartment buildings, for example, and all those things. So that should be done by around early 2016, and the 30% design should be complete at that time also. And then after that, of course, if we're going to proceed with the right-of-way and access hearings, and get all the process through. For if we have money, we can acquire the right-of-way. So back to the question earlier, when would be a good time to come back? I would think probably around this point where we need to come back to get your endorsement on any recommendation that we think we can move forward with. So
all right, Councilmember Honda, and then Councilmember Selsky and Moore.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your patience with us tonight and for your presentation. Is there a point during the next steps where you go out to the public and you have public hearings so that the folks that live around this area or that live in the area might have a chance to talk to you about their concerns or their questions? Do you do that?
Well, yes.
Yes, okay. I would encourage you to do that. I think that the public would be very interested in letting you know their thoughts and get some feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Selsky, or Councilmember Moore first, then Selsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A really quick request. And that's, is there a way to get a copy of this PowerPoint?
Sure, it's on your computer here. So, yeah, Rick has it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Councilmember Selsky.
All right, thank you, Mayor Farrell. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have 3 questions.
Sure.
First of all, I think we've been in this long enough in this new phase 1 that we may, or is there data available on the traffic impact? Is there anything available yet? Are we still too early into phase one to be able to collect that or analyze that
As far as,
compared to the old
okay,
intersection?
so, yeah, I mean, we've done that just for our own, analysis, and found that, first off, that new off-ramp is carrying about 700 vehicles an hour, which is a little bit higher than we were forecasting. What's interesting is about half of it is turning right and then left on 356th. So that volume has increased quite a bit, but people have also figured out that if they want to go, if they're coming in on 18 or coming in off of Weyerhaeuser Way and they want to go to Home Depot and Costco, to take that ramp instead of making the double, the triple left at 348th and Enchanted. So what we have seen though is, and I'll be talking about this at the next special session 2 weeks from now, about latent demand. So basically, freeing up some of that capacity has made it easier for people to continue going the old way that they used to. So essentially, the volumes didn't drop the same amount as the amount of traffic that was diverted. Okay, if that makes sense. So there's a little bit of backfill effect occurring. So we've seen volumes drop about 100 vehicles an hour at 348th and Enchanted, even though we now have another way that has 700 vehicles an hour more down at the off-ramp at 161. I think where that's coming from is people that used to get off at Weyerhaeuser Way and go down 28th Avenue to Milton and Edgewood, because those volumes out there have dropped. I can't tell you what those numbers are because we don't monitor those intersections because they're outside the city, but I go that way sometimes to pick up a friend of mine, and I've noticed a big difference in how far the backup at the always stop at 28th and 360th.
And then along with that too then, Rick, the accident data.
Okay, I can't speak to the freeway, but I'm guessing it's a heck of a lot better. And I would say for our intersections, haven't seen a huge swing there.
Okay. Okay, great, thanks. And then question about a little bit more detail on the routing of traffic. So the new 356th ramp, and then the current one that's coming off of Highway 18 that's going on to 161. Will those two ramps both be accessible coming both from southbound I-5 and westbound Highway 18? Will they both be accessible from both those routes?
They're both accessible for if you're going southbound I-5,
Yes.
but the new ramp to 356 won't be accessible from westbound 18.
So westbound 18, you'll continue to go on the one that's existing right now?
Correct.
Okay, but you said southbound I-5 will access both 356th and the existing one, what we call the new one right now?
Correct.
Okay, great, thanks. And then the last part of that, Rick kind of made mention of this. Coming from Weyerhaeuser Way, westbound on Highway 18, will you then be able to go into 348th as part of this project? I don't think I saw that option there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know personally I've been caught a few times trying to do that and rerouted southbound I-5.
So, yeah, this little piece of blue right here is a flyover ramp that would put you back onto 348th. So that's a future phase in the Senate bill's version, probably not going to get funded.
Okay.
Okay, because it's less than what we asked for, and some of these costs are going up in the interim. But it has been very preliminarily designed, and so the concept is still there.
Okay, but probably not in phase 2 for that.
Oh, definitely not.
Definitely not in phase 2.
Definitely not
Okay.
phase 2, might be in phase 3.
All right, on the
I
wish
mean, we're
list.
calling phase 2 is what the 356
Right.
off-ramp.
Okay.
And so any future phase It might be combined,
Yeah.
but not at 85 million.
Okay, great, thank you.
Council, any other questions?
Just a
All right,
quick one.
Councilmember, Maloney.
Maloney. So, I believe that Sound Transit is supposed to be giving us a preliminary idea of where they're thinking the alignment would be in a couple months. Isn't
Right.
that correct?
Yep, very soon.
So, even though right now, things are rather vague, it seems, is that something that you could potentially wait for? Because we're talking about, not even beginning construction for your project till 2022, I think you said. So, could you wait a couple months before a lot of these plans continue?
Okay, the draft EIS for the Sound Transit Light Rail Extension only covers alignment to downtown Federal Way. So
320th.
the segment from 320th
Gotcha.
to Tacoma,
Okay.
still not
That, so
determined.
then that would not predetermine anything in regard to that? Okay.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Council, any other questions? We want to thank you very much for coming on up here today and giving us all the detailed answers. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch. And a follow-up presentation would be very much appreciated.
Sure.
All right.
Come back.
So with that, we are in recess for executive session for collective bargaining pursuant to RCW 4230-1404B and evaluate qualifications of employee pursuant to RCW 4230-1101G.